Hello class, I'm just going to show you a quick demonstration of our second Tableau lesson. This lesson is taken largely from Tableau Public's own tutorials, and so if you want a little bit more detail, you should go look there. I just streamlined it a bit for our class. So hopefully you've downloaded the Excel file. I'll open that now. World Bank CO2. Takes a second to load. You'll see lots of different sheets from the file. We're just going to use the data clean and keep it real easy. Drag that here. It'll take a second to load. You can see a little bit of the types of data: country code, country name, region, year, and then CO2 in kilotons and CO2 per capita metric tons. Let's see. Again, I'm going to go through this very quickly. You can pause and go back if you want. But this is just to kind of demonstrate the things I'll be going over in class anyway. So let's move on. So our first sheet will look a bit like this. You can either drag to columns or double click on year and double click on CO2 per kilotons, and you'll get a graph pretty quickly. You can see this is total amount of CO2 generated per year around the world. This sharp rise in the early 90s, you'll be asked to look into that a little bit on the worksheet. And we can just get a little bit more of an insight. We can drag, say, region over to path. It'll cut it up in a bunch of different lines, and maybe region over to color and get it color coded. Change our sheet to something a little more meaningful. Change the name, CO2 by, by region. Changes the name here. And that's it for our first visualization, just to give you a quick sense of how CO2 levels have been rising. We can dig into why certain numbers look the way they do, but maybe that's for a different class. Let's make another worksheet. You can click on this to make another worksheet, which is also going to be a line chart, also by year. But except this time we're going to use CO2 per capita. Makes the line chart looks a little bit different from what you saw before, but you can see some of the similar trends. But this time we're going to divide it out by name. So again, we're going to separate each of the paths, and each one of these lines, they're all stacked on top of each other, is a different country. You can see a few of them here with more volatile activities like Qatar, and then you can go down here and look at some of these others down here. This is a little bit hard to read, so what we want to do is take that CO2 per capita again and drag it over to color. This gives us a little bit of color shading, but we're going to modify it to make the differences pop even more. Let's click on this and go to Edit Colors. Now we're going to change this, since these are sort of bad numbers, to red-black. We're going to reverse it, so red is worse. Let's go to the Advanced, use full color range. We're going to start our axis from 0. We're going to center it, instead of in the middle around 50, which sort of makes 50 look normal, to something much lower CO2 emissions, like 5. We hit Apply, and we start seeing something a little bit more, where we see a little bit more of the difference in behavior, and we can kind of see which countries are more volatile than others a little bit more clearly. Again, let's change this to a more meaningful name. Line chart by country, and that changes that there. Okay, let's make another worksheet. This time let's make a map, because we love making maps. Let's go to country name, drag it in the middle. It makes a map. Each of these dots is a country, not much information there. We want to take that CO2 per capita and associate that to the size of the circles. That way, bigger circles indicate more CO2 emissions per capita. We're going to up the size a bit to really see those differences, but they all kind of turn into blobs that are hard to see. So let's color code them again. Again, CO2 per capita over color. It's very important that we change the color scheme to the same one we did before. We had red, black. We're going to reverse. Again, I want to start at 0 so our axes aren't super deceptive. I'm gonna move my center over from around the middle to around 200. Hit OK. That looks pretty good. Let's add a border just to make the circles a bit more distinct. Let's drop the opacity down to about 75%. Oops. And now we can see some of the stacking. We can see some of that difference. It looks pretty good. We'll change this name to world map. Okay, and now we're ready to make a dashboard. To click on this new dashboard, we're going to drag the world map on top and the line chart on the bottom. And we're also going to drag a title down, so text on top, and give it a name. I'm going to call this CO2 emissions per capita by country by Fong Li. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's make CO2 emissions red to really emphasize. And now let's just move some windows around, move this up here. I'm going to change these so it lines up a little better. And that's it. We have our chart here. We can go to File, save to Tableau Public. It'll start processing, and then a web page will open and you'll share it just like you've been instructed to. And that's about it. Good luck, and I will see you in class.